Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Contra Costa Tail Spinners. As always, it's just so lovely to have you here. I've been thinking about you all for 2 days now, trying to think about a story and think about all the fun that we've had and what a wonderful experience this has been. And I don't know about you, but I am just inundated with storyteller programs. And so it's very gratifying to know that you're still with us, that you're still coming to Tail Spinners, and that we are viable and sharing our wonderful, wonderful stories. And we have a lovely roster of tellers for you tonight. And we look forward to hearing from you and your comments and your applause. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Liz, co-host of Contra Costa Tail Spinners. Come, Liz. Okay, Liz.
Okay, Sally, thanks. So let's invite everyone to mute yourself unless you're Karen, because we're going to start with Karen Werner, our featured storyteller. And she's been a storyteller, a featured storyteller. I feel like, Karen, I can see the room at the Orinda Community Center where you are in the, where you last told for us. And we're we're looking forward to the day when we'll be back there. But in the meantime, here we are together, as Sally said. And I was thinking back to Karen, I was trying to think when I first met you. Was it through the Bay Area Storytelling Festival? Was it through Stage Bridge? Was it through Storytelling Association of California, where Karen, I know it wasn't then, but that Karen has been the chair of our association, a past chair. So we're all really in your debt for that. But wherever it was, I just remember how delightful your wonderful, quiet, gentle, but powerful presence, and the way you bridge. I feel like, and there's also, I didn't even mention Epic Day, where we gather for a whole day to tell the ancient stories, and yet you also tell so beautifully about your own childhood, where you say that you have been a storyteller and story lover since you got your first library card in Colorado, and some of your stories of the ranch life there, which is so different from how I grew up in New York City, and yet you bring it to life, whether it's ancient, a while ago, or just yesterday. So please, everybody, let's welcome Karen Werner to tell us stories.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Liz. You're so kind. And I'm just thrilled to be with you tonight. I can't tell you, I love what's been happening with storytelling during Zoom. And I must say that tonight, it's a gorgeous night out there on this summer evening. But tonight, I'm going to take you with me to another summer long ago that exists only in memory. It is June 1956. The vast Wyoming sky is azure blue, with billowing white clouds trying unsuccessfully to cover the mountaintops in the far distance. The smell of lilacs perfumes the air as I walk from my home to downtown Cody, where I'm going to meet my best friend, Margie. Margie and I have been best friends for as long as I can remember. So we have important things to do today. But this is already an absolutely amazing summer because I have left my childhood behind and I am now fully an adult. Got to tell you that 2 weeks ago, I graduated from 8th grade, and in September, I am going to go into Cody High School. Unfortunately, my mother does not believe that I am an adult. She will only allow me to wear pink lipstick. I can't wear mascara. I can't color my hair. I can't go out with boys. But the worst thing, the most horrible thing, is that she will not allow me to shave my legs. This is beyond humiliating because I am on the synchronized swim team and I will be the only girl in the entire pool with hairy legs. I just want to die. I have tried everything. I got some hydrogen peroxide from the drugstore and put it all over my legs and left it on for a really long time. It did absolutely nothing. Then I got some bleach from the laundry room. Well, I dipped a whole bunch of washcloths in it, wrapped my legs in those wet washcloths, and to make a long story short, it hurt. It really, really hurt. And what's more, it didn't bleach my legs. It bleached the washcloths, which I'm sure I will hear about later. So in desperation, I went to my mother's medicine chest and I got out her eyebrow tweezers. Well, let me tell you, you have not experienced pain until you have tried to take out every single hair on your leg with tweezers. It's excruciating. And I gave up. My only hope is that I will get a really big beach towel and put it around my waist and not remove it until just before I go into the pool. I can only hope that my mother realizes by the end of summer that I am an adult and she will let me live my own life. Well, as I said, Margie and I are meeting at Blair Drugstore, and specifically, it's the soda fountain in Blair Drugstore, because that's where all really important things are, the accomplishments and celebrations are really made important. And for kids, that starts in 3rd grade, because every kid from 3rd grade to 6th grade is given a free scoop of ice cream by Mr. Blair. Kids come in with their report cards in hand, and he takes a look at them. Oh, Martha, I see. You have 2 A's this time. Very good. Would you like 2 scoops today or just 1 so that you can come back later? Well, he then takes a straight pin and puts it right through the A to signify that it has been used. Well, the lucky kids march back to the soda fountain where they can get any flavor they like, chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. Wow. There are some kids in 6th grade that are so smart and get so many A's that they can have 4 scoops at once. But as soon as you finish 6th grade, the ice cream giveaway ends. It's totally okay though. In fact, it's fabulous because in 8th grade, we are allowed to use the booths at the back of the soda fountain by ourselves. We don't have to have an adult with us. This is amazing. Now, the boys really never come in. I guess they're too busy playing basketball and riding their bikes. So that means for us girls, it's like our own private club. And the soda fountain is beautiful. It's got shiny red booths and white gleaming tables with all rimmed around in silver. It's just wonderful. And what's more, we can stay as long as we like, and we can order any drink that we can think up. And Mr. Blair and Judy, the soda fountain, they just look at us and smile. They never say, don't giggle or be quiet. No, they smile because they really, really like us. And in return, we go nearly every day after school with our nickels and dimes, and we order lemon lime phosphates and cherry chocolate Cokes. And on special occasions, maybe a milkshake or a malted with extra maraschino cherries. Wow. We mainly go to the soda fountain, though, to talk. And we talk about everything. We talk about our parents. All of them are too strict. We talk about our siblings, which are really troublesome. And about our teachers, who are generally extremely unfair to us. But the most thing we talk about is makeup and clothes and boys and sex. Oh, yes, we discuss sex, but generally the information we have is what we get from exchanging things from each other that we have learned. You see, we all babysit, and the places where we babysit have magazines that have been extremely, extremely knowledgeable. It seems that they have Argosy and True the Man's Magazine and Playboy. Well, the information we get is tantalizing, and I can tell you it's information that our parents have never chosen to share with us. Well, in 7th grade health class, we received a booklet called All About You for Girls. Well, it didn't say anything we didn't already know. What we really wanted was a booklet that said All About You for Boys. Well, Susan swiped one off of Jimmy Lake's desk and brought it to the soda fountain so we could all read it. Well, again, at first, it seemed really, really boring. But then we came upon a section called Nocturnal Emissions. It was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying. And it was the beginning of the great sperm scare. It seems that at night, boys let out thousands of sperm that just float around in the air. And the worst thing was they didn't even know it was happening. They were asleep. But these were sperm, which we knew could make us pregnant and ruin our lives forever. We were so worried, we didn't know what to do. When we saw a boy on the sidewalk, we'd run across to the other side of the street just to avoid him. And in class, we crossed our legs really, really tight, but we were still extremely nervous. And poor Susan was so beside herself that she refused to go to school for 3 days. Finally, she broke down in front of her mother and cried, "I'm afraid that I'm going to get pregnant in math class." Well, it was an absolutely understandable fear because she sat right in back of Freddie Lake and right in front of Jimmy Reed. Well, her mother took matters into her own hands and she marched right down to the school nurse. Everything was settled. The school nurse gave us an extra health class and everything kind of got back to normal. Well, right now we only laugh at what babies we were in 7th grade. Margie and I are going to Blair Drug because we feel we need to start planning our future. We talk and talk for hours. We've been best friends forever, and we can actually finish each other's sentences. Well, we agree this much about the future. 1, we want to, as soon as we graduate from Cody High School, we want to move to New York City. We want to go to the theater. We want to go to fancy restaurants and we want to travel. The only problem is we're not quite sure how to afford it because even with babysitting and after school jobs, it might take more money than we're going to save. So we just talk and talk. But today we're meeting because last week I came upon something that I think may solve our problem. After we sit down with our lemon lime phosphates with extra maraschino cherries, I begin. You know that, Margie, last week I was babysitting for the Ballinger twins, and as usual, in the linen closet, under the towels, way in the back, under everything, was the latest copy of Playboy. This one was the best yet, and I think it has the answers to our problems. She was all ears. Well, it seems that in New York, wealthy men have girlfriends, but in New York, they're called mistresses. Well, they're having these mistresses that they do everything for. They buy them jewelry, they buy them clothes, they take them to fancy restaurants. Oh my God, Margie said, that's us. That's just what we want. But how do we become mistresses? Do you think there are classes we could take? Well, we talk and talk, but we really don't have a clue. Seems, and we both agree, that we need an adult who is worldly and sophisticated and can help us out. Well, that eliminates our mothers. It eliminates every single woman we can think of. But finally, we come across a name that we know is the answer. It's Madame Levant. She lived in Europe for a very long time, and she learned to speak French fluently. But when she came back to the United States, she came to Cody, Wyoming to teach French to high school. Not only that, but she recites poetry by memory to some of the clubs in town. Not only that, but she has a French banquet every year for her French club. She only has two rules. One, there can be no ketchup. And two, you must take a bite of everything. Well, not so simple as it may seem, because she serves things like this liver loaf, and it's called pâté de foie gras, and it's out of geese livers. Can you imagine? And then she serves these snails that are cooked in butter, and they're called escargots. Ooh. Well, we think we can take one bite of each of those things because she also serves great cheese. And for dessert, it's always chocolate with beautiful little cookies that she has like wrapped like an ice cream cone, and they're filled with whipped cream. So it's clear that if anybody knows about life outside of Wyoming, it's Madame Levant. Well, it's going to take a lot of courage to approach her, but we have to do it. So we go up to her door and start to knock. We look at each other and nod. After all, we kind of know her. She's in the same church as us, and she's in the adult choir, and we're in the junior choir. So you kind of know her. So we knock on her door, and she answers. Oh, girls, what do I owe this pleasure? Well, Madame Levant, we're hoping you could help us. We're trying to make some really important decisions, and I don't know, we just wanted to ask you some questions. Oh, come in and we'll talk about it. Well, we explain about the rich men and their girlfriends and being a mistress and all. And finally we say, we thought maybe you could help us because we don't really know how to be a mistress. We don't really know what classes to take or anything. I beg your pardon? I've never been the mistress of any man, rich or poor. What are you thinking? Oh, we know. It's just that you speak French and all. Uh-huh. I can see that you've thought about this a great deal. Well, I'll think about it as well. I'll tell you what, come back on Saturday and we'll discuss it further. Well, the next 2 days crawl by. But on Saturday morning, we're seated in her living room, sipping cups of tea out of china cups and eating the most delicious little cookies you can ever imagine. Well, girls, I've given your problem a great deal of thought, and I think I can help. But it will take a lot of hard work. Oh, we can do it. We can do anything. Well, to begin with, these men may like pretty girls, and you are both pretty, but it's not enough. Not enough. We're stunned. The Playboy article didn't say anything else would be needed. It's true, you are pretty, but in addition to be pretty, these men will expect you to be knowledgeable about a great many things. They'll expect you to read good books and be able to discuss beautiful music and classical music. They'll want you to know about current affairs and intelligently discuss them. This was even worse than being pretty. This didn't describe us at all. Oh, don't look so worried. You're both smart, and if you will do exactly what I say, I think you will be extremely gratified. Oh, we will. Just tell us, we will. Well, I want to give you some homework, and I want you to come back every 2 weeks, and we will discuss it and see what questions you have and what you think. Now, I'd like to start with these records. She had a whole stack of records on a table with some books and also a folder full of pictures. I want you each to take one of these records, and I want you to listen to it twice and then exchange it with each other and listen to the other one twice. Now, Margie, you can take pictures of an exhibition, and Karen, you can take Swan Lake. And I also have copies of this book, and I'd like you each to take a copy, and then we'll discuss it. The book is called The Old Man and the Sea. I want you to come back and tell me 3 things you like about it and 3 things you don't. Now, maybe you'll love this book, maybe you'll hate it. Either way is fine. Now, let's sit down and look at some of these pictures. This first one is by a French painter. His name is Manet. Well, the weeks and months went on. We met every 2 weeks, far beyond when school started again. And we came to understand very quickly that being a mistress was not exactly the career choice she had in mind for us. And we understood it was not one that we had in mind for each other at all. But she opened a door for me, which is better than anything I could ever have imagined. Thank you.
Oh, fabulous. Terrific.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me tell. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a great story.
Yes, powerful story. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo!
Woohoo. Ooh. All
Howdy.
right. Well, we have lots more wonderful tellers. Thank you, Karen. I put the order of the tellers in the chat. And if I check it myself to make sure, yes, our next storyteller is Renu Narayan, and she's here all the way from India, and she's been joining us on Zoom um, many months, and we're so thrilled to ask you to tell us a story.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. I'm really privileged to be here. I hope you can hear me.
Fine.
Yeah, okay, because I'm not in at home now. I'm on holidays, so I think my light and everything might not be as good. But I didn't want to miss out on the Zoom, so here I am. I'm going to start my story now. A long time ago, there was a small village at the foothills of the Himalayas. It was called Kamalalaya. Kamal means lotus. And just outside the village, there was this small lake, the surface of which was covered with pink lotuses. Now, on the outskirts of the village, there was a small hut in which lived a very old woman. She lived far away from the rest of the people in the village. She had been dubbed a witch, not because she had magical powers or she could cast spells, but simply because she could solve problems by using her common sense. But the village people were simple-minded and very superstitious folk. They couldn't understand how she could solve these complex problems. And so they decided that she was a witch and not fit enough to live with them in the village. So the poor old woman lived all by herself, very lonely. Even the children had been warned that if they went anywhere near her, she would cast terrible spells and perhaps turn them into frogs or lizards. And so the children kept away from her. Now, in that same village, there lived a little boy called Kermin. He was a shepherd boy. Every morning, he would drive his sheep up the hill and across to a meadow. It had lots and lots of lush green grass. He would allow the sheep to graze. He would sit on a rock and play his flute. And towards the evening, he would take them across to a stream so they could drink water. And then he would bang his stick on a rock. So all the sheep would assemble and stand still while he counted them very, very carefully. One evening, when he was counting the sheep, he discovered that one little lamb was missing. Now, Kerman loved his sheep, and he always counted and took them back very carefully back to the village. This time, when he found that one of the lambs was missing, he felt miserable. He couldn't possibly leave even one of them behind, because either they would die of the cold or one of the animals on the hill would eat up the lamb. He went around looking all over. He called out for the lamb, but there was no sign of it. Finally, he decided that he had to go back home. With his heart so laden with sorrow, he started going back to the village. And when he reached the village, he met a few of his friends and they said, "What's the matter, Kermin?" And he said, "One of my lambs is missing and I have no idea where to look for it." So they all said, "We'll come along with you." So after he had left the sheep behind, they all went back up the hill to the meadow and they looked and they looked and they looked, but they couldn't see any sign of that lamb. But finally, one of the boys said, "Hey, look up there, look up." And when they looked up, they saw this tiny lamb standing on this narrow ledge. And they wondered how the lamb had got up there. There was no sign of any path. There was no way any of the boys could have possibly gone up and got that lamb down. One of them said, "Hey, Kermin, wouldn't it be a good idea to go and see that witch and ask her if she could help?" "That's wonderful," said Kermin. "Let's go." Hey, we didn't say we are coming with you. It's your lamb. You go by yourself." Poor Kermin was terrified. How could he possibly go and see that witch? "Please come along with me," he asked. Fat chance. Do you think we want to be turned into a toad or a lizard? You go. And the rest of the boys went back. Poor Kermin was in a quandary. What could he do? But his love for the lamb was stronger than his fear of the witch. So he went slowly towards her cottage. He knocked on the door. There was no reply. So he opened it and went inside. And there was the old witch, fast asleep on a mat on the floor. So he went across to her and said, Witch, witch, wake up. She didn't wake up. So he tapped her on the shoulder and said, Witch, wake up. The woman opened up her eyes. At first she was angry. Why was he calling her a witch? Then she looked at his face. Poor little boy looked so worried. What's the matter, my child? She asked. My lamb is stuck upon a ledge and I need to get him down. Wait, I'm coming, she said. She caught up. She collected a few things, 3 pieces of cloth, a rope. Then she said, come, let's go. She took her walking stick and slowly they went up the hill. And when they reached the meadow, the boy said, Look, my lamb is on that ledge. The old woman looked up. There's no path. Let's go round to the other side. So when they went down to the other side, they found that there was a path going up to that ledge. It was a narrow path. The old woman said, listen carefully and do exactly as I tell you. The boy nodded his head. Take these 3 pieces of cloth. With one, tie the sheep's eyes so he's blindfolded. The other 2, tie up his legs. And then with that rope, tie the lamb to your back and come down. Do not look this side, that side. Just take 1 step at a time. So the boy did exactly as she said. He went up carefully, 1 step at a time. And when he reached the ledge, he lay on his stomach and called the lamb towards him. The lamb was only too happy to do so. So carefully, he blindfolded the lamb. He tied its legs together. And then with the rope, he tied the lamb onto his back. And just as instructed by the old woman, he took 1 step at a time. Slowly, he was now standing next to the old woman. Sabash, beta, she said. Well done, my child. The boy removed the blindfold and the cloth around the lamb's legs. He tied the rope around his neck and then said, Thank you so much, Grandma. Old woman's heart filled with joy. The first time a child had called her grandma. That's good, my boy, she said, putting her arm around him. And slowly they went back to the village. She said, I'll take you right up to your house. It's getting dark now. And as they walked towards his house, she saw that his mother was waiting outside. I'll be off now, she said, turned around and went back to her cottage. Kermin's mother came rushing towards him. Kermin, what was that old witch doing to you? Ma, don't call her an old witch. She's such a nice old woman. She's the one who helped me get my little lamb back. She's my grandma now. Really? Kermin's mother's eyes filled with tears. And by the next morning, the news had spread around the village. And a few of them went across to the old woman's cottage. They knocked on the door. And when she came out, they said, Please forgive us. We've been calling you an old witch. We are so sorry. And the old woman looked at them and smiled. That's okay. I'm happy that you've realized I'm not a witch. One of them hugged her and said, Please come back and live with us in the village. And that's what she did. For the rest of her life, she lived very happily with the people in the village. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renu. That's a beautiful story.
You're welcome.
And I just want to also point out that Renu, she is the organizer and host of a wonderful many storytelling gatherings in where she lives. And, so it's just, we really appreciate your taking the time out of all the storytelling that you do to come and visit with us and share your
No,
stories. Thank you.
not at all, Liz. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me the space. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Well, our next storyteller is also from far, not quite as far, but Albany, New York, and that's Beverly Schwartz. And she, thanks to Ed Lewis, has been joining us because of how we're all meeting each other in this Zoom world. So Beverly, please tell us a story.
Good evening. This is a true story. And it happened many, many moons ago in my third grade class in the early 70s. I had this little boy, Jimmy, and he always liked to look out the back windows. There was 3 of them in my room. One of the windows had the pencil sharpener, and my 3 windows faced the back area of the school where all the gym classes would go out and play. I knew what he was up to every time. I would see him take a pencil and make sure it was broken. He'd walk over and very slowly, he would sharpen his pencil. That day was no different than any other day. He would sharpen it and slowly, slowly, really look out the window and see whether the action was. It had been raining all night the day he did this when I was watching him. Then he dropped his pencil. Oh my God, Rags! Rags is out there! Help! We need to save Rags! Rags! Well, I wasn't expecting that, and neither were the kids, and we all jumped up and we all ran to the window. Who's Rags? My dog. He's a rag doll. We call him Rags. And there he was, rolling in the mud and the water from the night before on the playground. He's escaped. He escapes all the time, but he must have followed me to school this morning. So the kids are looking at me now. What am I going to do to save Rags? He looks, we have to save my dog. And all the kids are saying, yes, we need to save his dog. They were probably thinking too of all their animals. I said, okay, Jimmy, go get the dog. Be real quiet, go down the side stairs, around, and bring him back into our classroom, which was up the stairs, second door to the right. And we're all watching him out the window. And there he goes. And he gets Rag. And as he goes to be near the dog shakes him. He's full of mud now. So he drags the dog, and we watch him. And I stand near my door waiting for him to come up the stairs. And I open the door when I see him. In comes the dog in Rags. And he starts running all over the classroom. Have you ever smelled a wet dog before? Oh, it was disgusting. And he was shaking all over the place. And we were getting covered with water and mud. And I said, Jimmy, come here. Sit with your dog right here now. And don't let him go anywhere. And that's what Jimmy did. And I said to everyone, go back to your seats. So there's my muddy class. I said, oh my God, the parents are going to know something happened when they come home. And we're all sitting there. And it was real quiet. And they're all looking at me. What do we do now? And I'm saying to myself, what do I do now? I got the dog. We've saved it, but can't stay in my room the way it is. And I said, Jimmy, is your mother's home? Yes. Now I was friends with Jimmy because I had a sister for 2 years before that in second and third grade. I said, go to the secretary's office, which was kitty corner to our classroom. Don't let her hear you say anything. Just say, I have to call my mom. It's important. Ms. Schwartz wants me to. Now, in those days, there was only 3 phones, the secretaries, the nurse, and the principals. So she gives him the phone, she dials the number, and he walked as far away, he told me, as he could, and said, Mom, Rags is here. Can you come pick him up? And she said, yeah, just go to the side door, sit there, and I'll get him. And he comes back and the door opens, the rattle of the glass. It's an old 1920 building, and the wooden floor creaks, and the door opens and he comes back in. My mom's on the way. She's going to help Rags. We all cheered. I said, okay, Jimmy, I'll wait. Let me make sure the principal or no one's coming down the hall to see you drag your dog out. The hallway was empty. And he dragged the dog down the stairs and sat, I could see, on the side of the sidewalk on the side of the school, because we had windows on the side door. Oh my God, we got rid of, if he's going to get picked up, we saved the door. And I come into the room, 2 thumbs up, and then I looked at the room. It was smelly, it was muddy, it was wet, and oh my God, I knew I had to clean it up, because if I told the custodian, he'd have complained to the principal. So I knew when my break time, I was going to have some kids come and stay with me, because we had tried to take some paper towels and we just made the floor worse and muddier. So I knew I had to get a mop. Well, I said, okay, everyone just sit and relax until Jimmy gets back. And all of a sudden the door swings open and it's Frank, the principal. I hear you have a dog in this classroom. Where is that dog? Now, I didn't want to lie to him, but there was no dog in my classroom at the moment, was there? And I said to the kids and him, there's no dog in this classroom right now. He says, I know you have a dog in this room. And he runs to the closet. He opens one door, they all opened up. He goes, the dog's not in here. Where are you hiding it? And he runs to one reading corner, which I have, boxed in. No dog there. He runs to the other near the sharpener. Nothing. And he looks at me. I know you've had a dog in this room. I'm going to find it. And we will talk later. And he goes and he runs out the room and he slams the door, and the glass, crackles as usual. And I look out the window and there he is running down window to window to window to window to each door of the 15 classrooms in that floor to see where the dog might be. I had just lied to my principal. Well, I really hadn't. There wasn't a dog at that moment in my room, was there? My kids are looking at me. Are you going to get fired? I said, but I told the truth, right? They were, yeah. Oh my God. So I said, I have to sit down. I'm sitting there. I'm almost hyperventilating. Oh my God. Well, I always wanted to be a lawyer. I guess if I get fired, I can go to law school, I was thinking. And then the door starts creaking open again. I'm going, oh my God, I hope it's not the principal. I hope he didn't see Jimmy on the side of the school. And it's Jimmy without his dog. My mom came and got the dog. We saved Rags. And everyone said, yay. And I'm going, well, we might have saved Rags, but I don't think it saved my job, Well, I said to the kids, listen, when we go out and I'm going to look from now on and see if Mr. DeFrank is near us. If he comes near us when we're in the hall walking, we're turning around and going the opposite way. We'll go down the stairs and up and back into our room. So for the next 2 months, he never talked to me. I never talked to him. And every time my class would see him, we just automatically would turn around and just start walking the other way and following me to try to avoid him. And that is the story, a true story of Jimmy and his dog, Rags. Thank you.
Thank you, Bev. That just shows that big adventures can happen anywhere. Anywhere.
And I didn't get fired.
Yeah. Happy ending too. We got a happy ending also. All right. Well, Vishnu is our next storyteller. You ready? Vishnu, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, so I just won't try, but you can tell us if you want. But Marion Ferranti, who's in our meeting today and who is the SWAP leader and founder of the Delta Word Weavers, had a youth storytelling event a few months ago, and Vishnu was one of the storytellers who just delighted us. So thank you, Marion, for connecting us so that we could enjoy him as well. So please welcome for the first time to our SWAP, Vishnu. Take it away.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So the story I'll be telling today is called The Poor Cobbler and the Magician. And so once upon a time, there was a poor cobbler whose name was Brom. Now, Brom worked hard every single day to make as much money as he could. But being a cobbler, he could barely make enough to get by. And so every day he would wake up early in the morning, freshen up, get some nice pair of clothes on, and walk to work. And he had in the side of the street a little hut, and that's where he shined shoes for a living. And so every day he would sit down in his chair and wait for customers to come by to shine their shoes. And so being a cobbler required a lot of patience because you don't all the time get customers. And so one day, Brom went to work and he was waiting for customers. Not a single person. He waited an hour, 2 hours passed by. No one. So he decided he would pack up and go home. So he put his tools in his toolbox and was just about to head home. But suddenly a tall and mysterious man walked up to him. Now he wore a black trench coat and a very nice tall top hat. Brom was scared. He didn't know who this person was. So with all the confidence he could muster, he said, "Shine your shoes, sir." The man didn't reply. Instead, he said, "I have to be somewhere important immediately. Now, I don't have any money to give you. Can you please still shine my shoes?" Brom hesitated. He hadn't earned a coin all day. But being the kind person he was, he said, "Okay, I'll shine your shoes." And so the man sat down and Brom shined his shoes to perfection. And when the shine was done, Brom said, "Oh, I'm finished." "Oh, very well done," said the man. "For being so kind enough to help me, despite I said I had no money, trust that you'll be rewarded heavily. Now you see, I am no ordinary man. I am a magician. And so here is a little reward." And so the magician clapped his hands, and suddenly next to Brom appeared a goat. "Now this is no ordinary goat," said the magician. "This is a magical goat. Simply say the magic words, 'Magic goat, do your magic. Magic goat, don't be tragic. I am very poor, I can hardly afford a s'more. And gold coins will fall as the goat shakes itself.'" And sure enough, the goat shook itself and gold coins started falling to the ground. Now Brom immediately was astonished seeing this magical goat and took a pouch from his pocket and put all the coins in them and tied them up, and he put them back in his pocket so he wouldn't lose them. And he thanked the magician heavily and decided to pack up shop, for he had money, he didn't have to work anymore. And so Brom took his toolkit again, he put the goat on his shoulders, and he set off on his way home. Now the goat was very, very heavy. And so Brom was walking and his back ached and decided, I'm really tired. I could use a place to stay for just one night. And suddenly he saw his Aunt Ingrid's house. And he decided, this goat's heavy. I'm tired. Maybe I'll get a cup of tea and then head home. And so he went to his Aunt Ingrid's house and knocked on the door. His aunt said, "Come in." And he explained to his aunt that he was very hungry and tired from the goat. And she said, okay, and decided to make him a cup of tea. But then Brom said, "Don't say these words, no matter what." And he said the spell, "Magic goat, do your magic. Magic goat, don't be tragic. I am very poor, I can hardly afford a s'more." And suddenly the goat started spouting gold coins again. Now his aunt didn't notice this, for the goat was hidden behind the counter, so she wouldn't know. And so his aunt was very puzzled of what this spell meant. And she decided to test it before she gave Brom the tea. And so she went to the goat and said the magic words. And sure enough, she saw the gold coins. Okay, this would be of great use for me, she decided. And she decided to trick. And so she added some sleeping herbs to his tea. And so Brom drank the tea and went to bed. And during that time, his aunt took the magical goat and swapped it with one of her ordinary ones. And so when Brom woke up after his nice nap, he thanked his aunt heavily, took the normal ordinary goat of his aunt's, and set off on his way home. And when he reached home, his wife was waiting for him, wondering why he hadn't come at night. And he explained what happened. And his wife was puzzled. A magical goat? How does that work? But then when he showed her the gold coins, she completely forgot about it and immediately went to the market to get some food for a wonderful dinner. Now, Brown decided he wanted more gold coins. And so he said the magical spell to the goat. But the goat didn't even move. No shaking, no gold coins, nothing. So Brown tried again and again. No luck. And so Brown decided, something strange. Maybe tomorrow, once I rest and eat a wonderful meal using the gold coins I have right now, I'll go back to the magician and ask him what happened. And so that's exactly what Brown did. And the next morning, Brown set off to work with the normal goat on his shoulder, and he sat down and waited. Again, no customers. And suddenly the magician came back to him. Brown was ecstatic. Finally, he could ask what happened. And so the magician asked, is your goat working? Why are you working? You have the magical goat after all. It gives you gold coins. And then Brown explained, well, you see, it worked once, but not anymore. The magician was puzzled, and the magician tested his spell on the goat, and the goat didn't move. Now, the magician, being a man of compassion, decided to give Brown another item. And he said, oh, don't worry about it. Here is a magic cloth. If you say the magic words, magic cloth, do your magic cloth, don't be tragic. I am very poor. I can hardly afford a s'more. You'll get a feast in front of your eyes. And sure enough, there was a feast in front of their eyes. Brown was so happy. He thanked the magician once again and set off on his way home. And he was passing his Aunt Ingrid's house and decided, she gave me the tea last time. Let me repay back the favor and give her some food. And so he went to his aunt's house and knocked on the door. His aunt said, come in. And he said, thank you so much for the tea last time, Aunt Ingrid. And to repay you back, here is some food. And he said the spell. And sure enough, there was the biggest feast you could ever see. His aunt was surprised. Well, this would be of even better use for me. And she decided to trick Brown once again. So this time, his aunt only ate a little food and she kept feeding Brown, eat more. And Brown ate so much, he fell asleep once again. And so during that time, his aunt took the magic cloth and swapped it with one of her own that she knitted recently. And so when Brown woke up, he took the ordinary cloth of his aunt and set off on his way home. And when he reached home and saw his wife, he explained to her she didn't have to cook any more food ever again. The magic cloth would give the feast. Now his wife was wondering whether poverty had made him go insane or not. And so he tried the magical spell, and just as she predicted, it didn't work. Brown tried again and again. No luck again. And so his wife went back to the kitchen to cook food, and Brown decided, oh well, we'll go back to the magician again. And so that's what he did. He ate a meal and fell asleep. Now the next day, Brown went back to work expecting the magician to come, but no customers, no magician, no one. And so he packed up shop and decided to ask people if they knew where the magician lived. And so he knocked on door to door asking, but no one knew. Suddenly he saw a little corner, a little stream, and there was a little bridge. And so he crossed it, and sure enough, on the mailbox said the word magician. Bingo, said Brown. And he went up to the door, knocked once again. And luckily the magician was home and he didn't disappear. And so the magician let him in, and Brown explained, these two magical items only worked once. And the magician was smart. Something seemed off. And so we asked Brown exactly what happened. And Brown said, oh, you see, I stopped by my aunt's house. I fell asleep twice. I don't know why. And then the magician understood, aha. And so the magician said, okay, here's one final magical item. Here is a magic feather. If you say the magic word, magic feather, do your magic. Magic feather, don't be tragic. I am very poor. I can hardly afford a s'more. It will do its duty. Oh, said Brown, and he thanked the magician and set off straight to his aunt's house. And so when he reached the door, he knocked, and his aunt let him in, and he explained, since you are so kind for the food and the tea, here's something that will give you anything you want. Now his aunt fell for the trick immediately, and he said, don't say these words, and Brown said the spell. And his aunt decided, well, these past two magical items seem to work. Why don't I try it again? And so she said the spell, And suddenly the feather started to move. It started to circle her, and then it started tickling her. Oh my God, it's so ticklish, it's so ticklish. But Brom just stood there and watched his aunt giggle in laughter as she kept getting tickled. But Brom said only once he returned back the magic cloth and the magic goat, I asked the feather to stop doing its thing. Oh, okay, fine. It's right on the kitchen counter. Go take it. Oh, just stop this feather from tickling me. And so Brom didn't want to get tricked again by his aunt. So he went behind the kitchen counter, tested the magic spell on the goat and cloth, and sure enough, they worked. And so he said, thank you for being honest. Magic feather, my wish has been granted. And so the feather stopped tickling his aunt and instead started to circle around Brom. And it circled him and it became like a tornado and he disappeared. And then suddenly teleported him to his home. And so his wife was waiting, but not with the expression you expected. She was crossed. What is this? You come with a goat, a cloth, and a feather, and you expect me to believe magic. Now, she was just about to take him to the doctor when he actually showed her the spell and it worked. She apologized for everything. And they spent the gold coins to improve Brom's business, and they enjoyed the food and gave to the poor. Well, as for the magic feather, it's still said that till this day, it keeps showing up at his aunt's house to force her to give back what she'd taken from the poor and trick them. Then most importantly, Brom and his wife lived happily ever after. The end.
Wow. Fantastic. Another wonderful story from such an accomplished storyteller.
Bravo.
Bravo. As Anne put in the chat, you have a real career ahead of you. Thank you so much. Please come back and keep telling us stories.
Great story.
Thank you.
Those of us whose hair is starting to get gray or is white already, it's very inspiring to have you join us. Really is. Okay. Who's next on the list? Is it you, Jane? Jane, okay. Jane's been telling us a family saga, and it's too big for one session, so here she is with part 2, right? Okay, take it away, Jane.
Well, last month, I told you all about how my daddy got his nickname, which, by the way, is on his tombstone, Pup, and how he won a pony selling newspaper subscriptions. Well, this story starts in the family home in Sonora. Now, you might think that if you had 8 children and plenty of neighbors and friends and relations, that you would find it unusual to be at home alone. Well, on one particular day, my grandma, Johanna Cole, was alone when there came a knock at the door. She answered the door and a stranger was there. He said he represented the newspaper company that my father, as a little boy then, worked for. She invited him in. He explained that the newspaper had come to the information that Puppy's big sister, Lucy, clever Lucy, had sold the extra newspaper subscriptions it took to win the contest and win my father, Puppy, his heart's desire, which was Marianne the pony. The newspaper man was very agitated, very rude, very angry, very forceful. He said that that was cheating and that Marianne the pony would have to be returned right away. Now, my grandmother knew how ill her little boy Puppy had been, And that was why Lucy had sold subscriptions. She had gone all over town convincing people that they needed not only one, but maybe 2 subscriptions. The good people of Sonora had responded and had an intense interest in their little newspaper boy winning this contest. My grandma was thinking to herself, Puppy had worked so hard. He had been so ill, and he was working now really hard using Marianne the pony to help him deliver newspapers. Well, my grandma was not known to be a shrinking violet. In fact, if a cow gave her trouble when she was milking it, she would just boost its behind into position. She was a strong woman. Well, on this day, my grandma found herself in her own front room crying and a stranger raging at her. Wouldn't you know it? It was right then that Puppy came home. Now, Puppy was not a big boy. And when he saw this scene, he made a quick and brave decision. He ran and got the family shotgun. Now, Puppy was not much bigger than the gun, but he raised it and leveled it at this strange intruder. He said to the man, "You shouldn't make my mama cry." The man made a quick exit. But on his way out, he yelled back, "I'm going to get the sheriff, and you are going to be in big trouble, little boy." Puppy again yelled after him, "You shouldn't make my mama cry." Well, it wasn't long before the sheriff did return with that man in tow. They came in, and the sheriff listened to Mrs. Cole, my grandma, and Puppy. Then the sheriff turned to the man and said, "I think it's time for you to go down the hill," which in the lingo of Sonora means get out of town. The man did as he was told, and Puppy got to keep Marianne the pony. When Puppy had his health return, he had begun delivering the newspapers again, and he could deliver more papers using Marianne at a faster rate. Well, Puppy, as many little boys, knew every shed, every garage, every barn in town, and he had come across, dusty in a dark corner, a little black and yellow pony cart. And better yet, he knew who it belonged to. Well, suddenly, Puppy was a boy with a plan, a big plan. He mustered up his courage and up he went to the house of the lady who owned the pony cart. She was an elderly lady and she lived by herself. He knocked on the door and made his big business proposal. He explained to the lady that he was the newspaper boy and that if he could use the pony cart, he could deliver far many more papers than riding Marianne. On Marianne, he had a newspaper bag slung over her back with newspapers on in a big bag on each side. Well, he proposed that he could make payments on the pony cart because he couldn't afford to buy it. And would she consider this? Well, this lady had been a little girl right after Gold Rush days, And she had been a little girl with a pony and her pony cart and plans of her own. So when she heard Puppy's business proposal, she no doubt smiled and agreed to it. So they sat down and worked out a schedule. He would be bringing his payments weekly. So every week, Puppy would show up and make his installment plan. And every week, she would have cookies, cake, pie, and they would sit down for a good long chat. Puppy would tell the lady all his adventures, his troubles, just what was going on. And I've always wondered, what did she tell him about her childhood back in Gold Rush times? Well, the day finally came. The weeks had flown by, the months had flown by, and it was time for the last payment. Puppy was one proud little businessman. One more payment and the cart would be his. So once again, he entered the house, but this time the lady was on her feet saying, "Oh dear, I'm so sorry. I have to go out." She was putting her hat on and getting ready to go. She said, "Honey, there's cake on the table and you'll just have to eat it on your own this time. And when you're done, just put your plate in the sink, okay? Bye." And out the door she went. Well, here's little Puppy sitting in the kitchen all by himself. A great big piece of cake in front of him. He thought, well, okay. So he took his fork and dug in. Excellent cake. How lucky he was. He dug his fork in for a second bite. That cake is good. In he goes, digging his fork in for the third bite. Ooh, what's in the cake? There's something in the cake. So he scraped the cake away and oh, there was something in there. He dug it out and it was a big wad of something. He pulled it out and unwrapped it. Oh, it was all the money he had paid for the cart. There it was in front of him. All his work, all his planning, and she gave him the cart. That's a favorite family story of ours. And speaking of generosity and putting yourself in the shoes of another. Liz, do I have more time or is that?
That was 10 minutes. That was a perfect time, a perfect happy ending to that part of the story.
I'm so excited to tell you part 3 next.
All right, come back, everybody come back. But what a great place to end that chapter, yay. Ah, how heartwarming. Thank you. And thinking back to, it really got me when you said, what did she tell him, the old lady, about her childhood during Gold Rush times? That really gives me, I get goosebumps thinking of how, history is connected to us from person to person to person.
I've always felt connected to that lady,
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Jane. And our next storyteller is Ed Lewis, and Ed is the first of all the organizer of the SAC Genre monthly event, which was last night, and Bertha, who represented us, and I was unfortunately not able to be there, but I heard it was an amazing evening. And so Ed is also a storyteller, so as well as a story organizer. So Ed, tell us a story.
Okay, thank you. 10 years ago, I found true love for the 50th time. It was love at first sight. We had so much in common. We loved the fine cuisines of the world, and we would eat whenever we would go on our adventure traveling. We also loved theater, storytelling, and writing. We were meant to be together. Well, our first trip was to a feast in Aspen, Colorado, where we were to meet Beth's sister, who was closing down her beloved Japanese restaurant after 31 years. It was a huge celebration. The town really did not want her to close, but it was time. She was ready to retire and move on. The feast was unbelievable, and there were 10 family members that got together. We had exotic sushis, tempuras. We had this Atlantic salmon that filled the entire table, and the most amazing desserts. But the highlight for me was meeting Beth's niece, Chloe. She had married a man from South Africa, and together they had purchased and developed 5 resorts. Mostly walking resorts, but a couple Jeep resorts. And she told us all about those resorts and invited us to come for free, just paying our own airfare. So I was trying to figure out which ones, would we really want to go to. And when she told us about the Great Migration, that was it. We were going to go to the start of the Great Migration in the spring. And that's when all the animals of the savannah birth. And then they begin their march northward from the Serengeti National Park up through 1,200 miles to Kenya. And then they follow the grasslands and the water, and then they turn around and come back the same way. Well, we were going to get there at the start. So we planned a trip, and 6 months later, we flew in and were escorted out to the resort. Now, Beth and I are, a little, you might call us portly, and, we're not these great hikers like we used to be. So we decided to do the Jeep tour part of it. And for 4 days, we went on the most amazing Jeep tours. And the Jeeps were set up kind of like the London sightseeing buses. They had a top where you could get up and you could see all the animals and you could feel safe. There were so many experiences I had and just amazing pictures. But the most exciting for me was watching a cheetah chase down an antelope. And cheetahs supposedly can go up to 70 miles per hour. It was like a blur. Caught that antelope and then brought it back to her cubs that we could watch from maybe 200 yards away. We all had our telephoto lens, and it was just an amazing experience. 4 days of this. Giraffes that towered over our Jeeps. We didn't get that close, but it was just an unbelievable sight. The 5th day, though, was going to be the real adventure, because we were going down to the Kalumba River, where all the animals have to cross the river. Now, on this migration, according to National Geographic, there are about 1.5 million wildebeest, 250,000 zebras, 4,000 elephants, 5,000 lions, leopards, all kinds of prey and predators. It's just an unbelievable experience. The part that I had wanted to see, that I had seen in National Geographic documentaries, was when the wildebeest cross the Katoomba River. And that's where those 20-foot alligators live. And they have a feast. Now, there was a platform that was safe above the river where we could watch all of this. The only issue was we could not drive the Jeep down to the river. We had to go to the jungle. There was about a pathway about a quarter of a mile from the jungle down to the river where the platform was. And the guide told us, you know, it's a safe place. You really don't have to worry. These animals are really just trying to get across this river. But in case we do happen to run into some kind of a predator, here's what you have to do. Number one is you have to keep together. Number two is that if you happen to see a prey, a predator, do not look them in the eyes. Because if you do that, that's like a challenge. Look at the ground. Make yourself as big as you can. And whatever you do, do not run. It's exactly what a predator wants you to do. And they'll chase you down. They're much faster than you are. So we went into this jungle, and coming from the savannah, the plains, with just the low grasslands, the sounds were unbelievable. It was a monkey highway up in the canopy. I mean, it was just, we took so many pictures. Bird life everywhere. Oh, it was so exciting. And I was just mesmerized by everything. And I just snapped my last picture, and I turned to Beth and I said, Beth. And I realized I was alone. Everyone was down at the river. And I was only about halfway through that jungle. Well, I'm not that fast of a runner, but I just started running down towards that river. All of a sudden, this precious little baby elephant came out on the trail and stopped and looked at me. I'm looking at that baby elephant. I'm just snapping pictures. I'm getting all kinds of angles. It is such a cool experience. I've never seen anything so cute. And then all of a sudden, my camera lens, it went from baby elephant to just total gray. And I looked up. There's this mama elephant looking right at me. And of course, I am looking right at that mama elephant. I forgot about the ground thing, but all of a sudden, I put my eyes down as quickly as I could, and I puffed myself up, which to a mama elephant looked probably like a little bug. And then she started pawing the ground. And I'm going, there's no way I can get by this, but I'm just going to remain still. Don't run. I'm going to at least do that. But the elephant started moving toward me, putting her baby behind her. Now, I'm not the fastest runner, and I never was. But I'll tell you what, I decided that I was not going to follow that last instruction about not running with an elephant coming down at me. So I turned and I ran as fast as I could towards that Jeep. And I'll tell you what, if I was in the Olympics with that adrenaline going, I probably would set an Olympic speed record. However, I could tell that I was never going to make it back to the Jeep. And I don't know if you've seen those baobab trees. They have these big roots that go way up and branches. And I don't know if any of you have ever felt fear, but it just gives you adrenaline that you just can't imagine. That's why you've seen some of those pictures of little people lifting a car off someone just with inhuman strength. Well, that's what I felt like. And I knew I wasn't going to make it to the Jeep. So I leapt up into that baobab tree and I started pulling myself up. I got up 4 branches and I looked back and that elephant is just about where I'm at. I pulled up 2 more branches and I felt that elephant touch his trunk right next to my tennis shoe. I pulled 2 branches really quickly, but then that elephant wrapped its trunk around my leg and started pulling my leg down, pulling my leg down, pulling my leg just like I've been pulling your leg in this story since the invitation from Chloe at the restaurant.
Well, Ed, I am a sucker. So up until the very last minute, I was all with you. All right. Here's where we turn.
I knew from the beginning what you were up to.
Ah, darn it.
Read what I wrote. I wrote that about 5-10 minutes ago.
Well told, though. Well told.
And
I
that
know you
actually,
took that. You didn't, Ed. You went and you took that workshop for for how to tell a tall tale.
tell a
So
tall tale. And
we
I'll
got
tell
to
you,
watch out for you now. Anyway,
that
Sally,
whole,
I'm turning things over to Sally. Sally,
okay.
take it away.
Well, that is a true story, except for going to the resort, and we still have the invitation to go there, and we will do it.
Here I was, that's a trip I've wanted to make my whole life long. And I'm in this story. I said, no, I can't do it. Well, look at the terrible thing that happened to Ed. Doggone it. Well, wasn't that a wonderful, wonderful evening? Oh, thank you all you tellers. It was just grand, absolutely grand. Loved it, every minute of it. So I will, it's time to say goodbye, yes. And I think I can do it in 7 minutes. And then tell you a little story to send us on our way tonight. And I'm sure that you have remember from your history that there was a time when there were no colors in the world. Everything was gray, from the gray grass to the gray sky. And it was known as the time of the great grayness. And in that time, there also lived a wizard, and every day he would go to his window and he would look out. What a terrible day. Everything is so gray. I can't tell if it's when it's raining or when there's sunshine. And to amuse himself, he would go down into his cellar and study his potions and his spells. And one day he went down and he took a pot and he put it on the floor. And he took from the shelf a little of this and a little of that and a little of this and a little of that. And he put it in the pot. And then he took some liquid and he mixed it in there and he began to stir it. And he looked. Aha. Look at that. Look what I've made. And he took the pot and he took it up to his porch and he began painting the railing of his porch. And neighbors came by and friends came by. Wizard, wizard, what have you got there? Well, I have made a color and I am calling it blue. Can we have some? Why, of course you can. Take as much as you want. And pretty soon people were coming by and taking this blue color and they began to use it here and there. And before you knew it, everything was blue, from the blue grass to the blue sky. And it became known as the time of the great blueness. And the wizard, he got on his blue bike and he rode down the blue road. Oh, what a great day it was. Did you know something? It was not so great. No, not indeed, because you know, all that blue color, children saw all that blue color and they began to cry. And husbands and wives sat morosely on blue sofas looking at their blue walls with the blue pictures. And the wizard himself was feeling sad and depressed. I think I better go do something about this. So he went down into his cellar and he put a pot on the floor. And he took from the shelves a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And he took a liquid and he mixed it in and he began to stir. Much better, much better. And he took the color up to the porch and he began painting his wall. And the neighbors came by and the friends came. Oh, wizard, you've made another color. Yes, I made another color. Help yourself. And pretty soon that yellow was everywhere, from the yellow grass to the yellow sky. And it became known as the time of the great yellowness. And the wizard hopped onto his yellow horse and went down the yellow road, exclaiming, what a wonderful day, what a wonderful day. But it wasn't so wonderful No, because you know why? That all that yellow color was so hard on the eyes, and people were always squinting and running into each other. And the wizard himself got a terrible headache and had to put a washcloth on his head. Wizard, wizard, do something about all this yellow color. All right, I will, I will. And he went down into his cellar. And again, he put the pot on the floor. Again, he mixed things. And again, he made a lovely color. And this time, he called it red. And he took it up to the porch and he handed it out to his friends and to his neighbors. And pretty soon they began painting, and the whole world became red, from the red grass up to the red sky. And the wizard himself, he got onto his red rowboat and he rowed down the Red Sea, thinking, oh, what a wonderful day this is. But you know what happened? All the neighbors and friends came to the house. They were absolutely angry with all that red color. The children were always fighting with themselves. The wizard himself became enraged. I'll have to do something. I'll have to do something with this red color. And he went back down into his cellar. But he was so agitated that he was taking things from here and there and here. And the paints were spilling one into the other, and the orange and the red and the yellow went into the red and made orange, and yellow went into the blue and made green, and then the blue went into the red and made plum, and it kept going on. And the wizard was taking pots and putting them up on the porch, running back and forth, and people were coming and taking the colors and going out and painting, until one day the wizard looked out the window. Now that's better. And there was an orange on the orange tree. And there was a yellow lemon on the lemon tree. And there were purple grapes hanging off of green vines. Oh, look at that. And the wizard went out into the lawn, and he went down the stairs, and all the people followed him. And he looked out and he said, now this is a great day. And so it was, and so it continued to be. And that is a short story by Arnold LaBelle, The Great Grayness and Other Peculiarities. And it just seemed to fit the time, because we're opening up our living room windows, we're looking out and seeing that again, the world can be a very fine, fine place with all of its colors. And thank you for coloring our evening with such wonderful, wonderful stories. Come back next month. We look forward to seeing you. Bless you all. Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Sally. Good night.
Good night.
Everyone, thank you, Marnie, for being our tech host. And
Thanks, all. Thank you.
And yes,
thank you,
Mark.
Karen, and all our tellers.
Yeah,
Thanks,
See you
Liz
next
and
month.
Well,
Sally, for putting this on.
yeah, thank
See you
you.
next month, everybody.
See you soon.
Yeah, see you before.
night.
then.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.
What's the date of the next month?
Don't have a calendar with, oh yeah. Hold on.